And welcome to Success Unlimited podcast. I'm your host for today, Tom Simmons. And with us, we have Jonathan Caudill, CEO of Legacy Building Consultants. He has over 18 years experience in the insurance adjusting industry. He has managed and assisted with settlements of almost $200 million in claims over the course of his adjusting career. He's trained and helped countless adjusters and policyholders bring in a resolution or a finalization to their claims. He believes that claim disputes have led to a considerable increase in the cost of doing business for insurance carriers and therefore has led to a substantial increase in insurance premiums. We're going to go over all that, maybe get into some stories of his successes, some successful impacts he's made, his challenges. But Jonathan, thank you so much for taking some time with us today. How are you doing?
Hey, Tom. No, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it, and thanks for the warm welcome. That sounds great. I appreciate it.
Well, so to kick things off, would you mind, I guess, going over how'd you arrive at Legacy Building Consultants in your illustrious adjusting career?
Yeah, it's funny. You wake up and it's almost been 20 years, almost 2 decades. I started as an overnight claim adjuster at USAA in San Antonio. Thinking I was just going to have the job for a few months, and here I am almost 20 years later, and I'm still writing estimates and still discussing insurance industry topics. So, yeah, so that's really where my career started. I was 19 years old, started at USAA overnight, working regional services where we pretty much handled everything that would come in from vehicles hitting deers or sump pumps failing in the Northeast. And so got my start there, really kind of focused my career in insurance on property, got into the field and just really advanced my career through catastrophes. I started about 30 days before Hurricane Katrina hit, and I've really handled every catastrophe since then. So yeah, I've seen, not to take slogans, but I've seen a thing or two, right? So
yeah.
And so over the course, I've worked for 3 major insurance carriers, went the independent adjusting route. And since then have really found a career in the dispute resolution, meaning appraisals, building consulting. I've worked with several attorneys, litigation support. And so really have found sort of a market in that. What I saw in the industry was, number one, an exodus of top talent, just sort of leaving just the nature of the insurance adjusting world right now. And really was seeing most claims, unfortunately, not getting resolved, going to attorneys. Things that used to be just resolved, now are getting into these really heavy disputes. I'm seeing adjusters frustrated and emotional. I'm seeing homeowners and business owners frustrated and emotional. And I don't really see anybody trying to resolve that before it goes to the litigation side of things. So really, I just saw an opportunity, not because I really saw an opportunity because that's what I want in my own life is peace, right? So just peacemaking, just trying to get in and trying to just trying to get things resolved as much as possible. So yeah, we can go from there. There's a lot that I can cover as far as the dispute process.
Well, while most folks are running from conflict, you're running to conflict. But from what I heard, you try to bring a peaceful resolution and try to be non-emotional when you approach the dispute resolution. But if you're good with this, I want to take a step back. And when you were 19 years old, what prompted you to go into insurance adjusting? Because it seems like it'd be kind of boring from all the options maybe a 19-year-old would have.
Yeah, probably not your typical 19-year-old. My wife and I got started pretty young, so I was already a dad at that age. So that motivated me to get a job to support my family. So that's about as simple as it was. I didn't even know what USA was. I grew up in San Antonio. I didn't even know USA was an insurance company, or maybe I did. I didn't even know what insurance was really, other than I had to have it if I was going to drive. That was about the most information I had about insurance. So I was at a good friend's backyard barbecue, and I was just talking about needing to find a job, and he was working at USA, and he said, hey, you should apply for USA. I did. And I said, I have no idea what that is. So he took me out and pointed me to this huge building off of I-10 and said, that's USAA. So little did I know that would, that him pointing there would set me on the path to where I am today.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody really grows up wanting to be an insurance adjuster, and I'm no exception. So I think when we're in our late teens, early 20s, even throughout our 20s, we're looking for purpose and passion, and we think that we're going to have that job that's going to fulfill all that. What I've found, not only in my life but other people that I know that I've seen, you don't really find that purpose or passion in a job title. You find it in the relationship, in the community, and in what you do. And so for me, it's really just kind of reconciling what I wanted as a person and realizing that I was already doing it as a claim adjuster. I was, I'm standing outside of these houses that are still burning, and I've got a husband and wife with their young children sitting on the curb, just not sure what to do next. So for me,
how do you console them? What do you say? How do you emotionally process that? Because that's emotional, not just for them, but for you as well.
Yeah, it is. And so it's different. I mean, it's really, there's really no formula. There's really no outline to follow. It's just, you've got to be yourself. I'm convinced that authenticity is the best way of communicating. You can go to the seminars, workshops, if you're in sales, you can go to the sales seminars and learn all the different tactics. And hey, there's value to that. Absolutely. Right. There is professional development I'm a huge fan of. But at the end of the day, what people want to know is that you care, and that's it. So you're just showing up as you, and you're really putting yourself in their shoes. Man, if I was the dad here in this situation, and I got my kids over here crying, all their toys and the memories are burned up, and my wife's crying. So it's really just coming and trying to be empathetic towards their situation, and also just help them say, hey, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there together, and just really hold their hand through that process.
I guess taking a walk through from 19 years old to CEO of a building consulting company, you've held hands, of a lot of mom and dads, sons, daughters, the emotional toll, and then woven in that is life. Mentioned you have your firstborn was probably 18 or when you were turning 19.
Yeah.
Out of all of that, what is the top 2 or 3 things that you're most proud of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what I just mentioned, really getting into a position where I was able to help people. I wanted to help people at 19. I mean, if I could have, but I didn't have the expertise or the know-how. So just finding the right people in my career, in building those relationships of mentors. But I didn't realize that all this time that I was being mentored, I was also being prepared to be a mentor myself. So I would say one of those would be just, now I'm at a career where people are, I've talked all these years. Now people are starting to listen somehow. So for some reason. And so it's a great responsibility, I feel like, to be able to feed into the lives and the careers of people that are much earlier in the process of beginning their career. So that's definitely something. Just building these relationships, again, encouraging the people that have been in the industry a lot longer than me, but then also encouraging and helping provide support for people who are beginning their career. So, excuse me.
No, so you were thrown into the fire, so to speak, with Katrina. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans back in 2005. You said you had been working for 30 days. And then you were probably whisked off to New Orleans, or as they say in Louisiana, New Orleans.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I started at, again, 19 overnight. USA, they had outsourced a lot of their call center activities after hours, and the customer service just wasn't on par with what USAA members had come to expect. So they hired a whole bunch of individuals to come in and work overnight. Great group of people that I was hired on with, and just really, I really just the mission, the core values of USAA, especially at the time, just really were ingrained in me. I loved it. It just gave me a sense of purpose.
What were some of those values that were ingrained in you?
Yeah, so honor, service, integrity. One of the two things I would say that I would take away from just being 19 and absorbing all that was taking care of those who knowing I got to remember all that now. But
you're good. You're good. If you don't get it
exactly, serving those who serve us, or
Okay.
taking care of those who have taken care of us. And so USA is awesome because they have this niche market of the military. And so I feel like just being there and just how honoring USA was of its military members and the community, really painting the picture for, especially during the time we were involved in the Iraq War. We had service members, we had a lot of situations where there were deployments and the wife was left at home. Husband's been gone for a year and a half, and now they have a fire or a huge pipe break in their house, and they've got damage. So really helping a lot of military spouses, and just really seeing the mission of USA come to fruition. And I was a part of that. That was really edifying for me in my career, and really showed me that I have the power to help people in whatever position I'm at. So that's serving those who have served us, I believe. And then the other one is just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I find as I get older, the simple truths are usually the best ones, right? And so just when you do things right, things tend to work out. Just do that. Just try to do the right thing today. And if you do that, you do that over the course of the week, over the course of the months, over the course of the years, you're going to end up where you want to be. And you're going to have made such a difference along the way.
So I want to touch on something you alluded to early on, was conflict and emotions of insurance claims. It seems like there is a increasingly larger divide in attitude from policyholders on the when they make an insurance claim. There's an immediate response of, I want to make an insurance claim, and the big bad insurance company is going to deny the claim. How do you, because I mean, you just went over USA's values, what they espouse there, and another, like a good neighbor, or you're in good hands, all these different slogans from insurance companies. How do they, as an insurance company, reconcile the positive marketing they put out there, and they have such a reputation when it comes down to not all policyholders, but maybe some policyholders that haven't had a good experience? What roles have BC played in that, and how do you resolve those disputes peacefully?
Yeah, and let me just say, I could make a very successful career out of going out and talking about how bad the insurance industry is, right? I can go and talk to people. It's like talking about your cell phone provider. It doesn't take much to say, hey, insurance company bad. Oh, yeah, we agree. But I've been in that seat. I know those adjusters right now that are trying to do the right thing. Certainly not everyone. There's always going to be a few bad apples, but for the most part, most adjusters that I've worked with and have been able to be mentored by or have been able to mentor, they're trying to do the right thing. But what happens is the industry sort of, where there's money, you're going to see a lot of corruption, and you're going to see a lot of emotions. One of the big things that I have found is that when approaching the insurance carrier, there's of course the homeowner, the business owner, there's emotions involved with that. The problem is that we see them hiring contractors, them hiring public adjusters or attorneys who, instead of filtering that emotion and filtering that filtering their emotion into a professional response, they just amplify that emotion. And what that does, that gets the other side, the insurance adjuster or the vendors for the insurance carrier, that gets everybody into an uproar. And now you have this huge conflict that's more emotional based than it is based on facts. And so what I believe as a good building consultant, or really any vendor that either the insurance carrier hires or the insured hires, should remove that emotion and base their project, base what they're doing on trying to find what the truth is. What is actually damaged? Is it actually covered? And what's it actually going to cost? It's the concept of indemnification, which is paying exactly what is owed, no more and no less. That's what the promise of the insurance carrier has in the contract and the policy. And that's what we seek to do, is we seek to help insurance carriers support or follow through on their promise and their commitment to pay for damages that they've agreed to pay for, and really get rid of a lot of that emotion as much as possible. Not every claim is going to get resolved with it before going to litigation, but a lot of them can. And I think that's going to be a solution. One big problem that we're seeing right now is increased premiums. Again, it's not hard for me to go and say insurance company, and people have a range of emotions based off of that. But what we're seeing are inflated costs of claims and claims handling impacting premiums for everyone, to the point that Florida is in a real mess right now with carriers wanting to leave. We're hearing about coastal states insurance carriers just can't afford to operate business there. So instead of just pulling out and leaving, trying to figure out for homeowners and business owners, trying to find out what they do for their insurance needs, let's try to get at least one of the roots, and let's try to get these claims resolved without sending it through a very, very costly and very lengthy litigation process.
So I was doing a little bit of research on the industry, and I believe the one stat out of Florida, Hurricane Ian hit in 2022, and the average cost to litigate a claim was $150,000. Is that right?
And that's what I'm hearing too. I mean, yeah, we're actually at Legacy, we're actually doing some research, so we should have some information coming first or second quarter of 2024. But that, based on surveys and questioning industry professionals, attorneys, average claim handling was $150,000. And guess how many claims went to attorneys in Florida? I don't have that number, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And then we turn around.
But 150,000, that's not even including the actual cost. That's just the cost to process, to litigate if it goes to an attorney. That's not even including the claim itself.
That's right, and that's average. So there's claims significantly more than that, and there's a lot of. I mean, we don't have enough time to go through all the reasons and the variables as to why that happens, but that is what it is, and that's the problem with the emotion. Like, again, if we can sort through the emotions and get at the core of the issue before this gets too far along, and
right.
Both sides dig in, let's see if we can find some common ground. Let's see what is actually owed, and that's what we're coming to. Going back to the original part of our conversation, Legacy not only provides those dispute resolution services, but we also want to be a landing platform for industry talent that right now is a lot of things are changing, and so a lot of talent is leaving the industry, and they're going to be contractors or even public adjusters, or possibly leaving the industry altogether. And so we're trying to bring some of that just top talent, expert adjuster, people who have been doing this for decades and understand what it takes to actually get claims resolved with the customer as their focus, their number one priority. Really, we're attracting that talent to come in and again bring peace to the situation as much as possible. Try to find what the truth is, and really get at what is the cost of indemnification here. Let's all pursue that. If we can all agree to that, we're going to be able to get most of these disputes resolved fairly easily.
Okay, so I appreciate all that information. I want to shift gears and take a different track, different angle on the conversation. Because part of this podcast, Success Unlimited, I want to explore some of the challenges that you face, maybe personally, maybe in business. What are some of the challenges, the largest obstacles you've had to face in your life?
Yeah, that's how much time do you have, right? No, I think everything that I just talked to, there's a reason that I feel so confident in what we're doing at Legacy and trying to bring peacemaking to the industry. I've spent a lot of years without peace. There's been probably one of the biggest things has been my decision-making process and trying to do the right thing for my career has not always lined up with what I want to do personally. And so really just really getting at, I used to ask myself, is it the right thing to do? And now I ask myself, is it the wise thing to do? If it's the right thing to do, I can convince myself all day long. Is it right to go buy that brand new truck? But is it the wise thing to do? And so that really has really guided my decision making. And again, it kind of gets back to your question. I have made a lot of right decisions in my career and partnered with maybe people that didn't have the right or the same vision or the same passion or the same integrity that I do. And so now I just see it as simply going through a lot of that, coming down to just again trying to make the right decision. Sorry, I kind of got lost there a little bit.
No, you're fine. So, what advice would you give to somebody that it doesn't have to be in the insurance industry, but if there's a disconnect, what they want to do, and sometimes that conflict with what they have to do, they might be, feel the need to do one thing, but their needs and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they have to put a roof over their heads. They have to do this over here. How do you resolve that conflict within yourself?
Yeah, so I think it's Vince Lombardi who said that a good coach is going to get you to do what you don't want to do to achieve what you want to achieve. You don't win a championship without starting way back early the year before, right? So that's what the purpose of practice is, and all the things that we do to build a team and build it towards success. So really, it's discipline. It's showing up when you say you're going to show up, and just doing all the right things. If you're leading a team, it's leading. So you're pulling your team along with you and showing them the right way to do it. And so that's what I would say is really just prioritizing and discipline, and just trying to move forward, encourage your team along the way.
So when you were pulled away, not wanting to leave your young child and wife, and having to go from San Antonio, Texas to New Orleans to work at Trina, that's a great example of this, I think, where you have to go, but you want to be home. And that can impact, in my case, I'll bring in a personal story as well. So I've been in the insurance industry, and I've spent a lot of time on the road, away from my family, away from my kids, and that hurt my kids and my wife, and it hurt me as well because we're apart. So a lot of new adjusters coming into the industry, as we've spoken about. What's the one piece of advice you would give to that new adjuster who's going to have to be on the road?
Ooh, that's hard. And just point of clarification. So I actually I didn't deploy to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I was, but it was 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. So it felt like a deployment. But I was,
might as well work after time.
Might as well. That's exactly right.
God.
So, but with that said, I've deployed to nearly every hurricane since then. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's a feast or famine, especially on the independent adjusting side of things. It's feast or famine. I mean, it's weird. You're at home just begging for the next storm, and then the next storm hits, and you're kind of guilty because now I'm leaving my family. And as soon as you're there, man, I just want to go home. But then you go home, and then it's just a vicious cycle over and over again. So I think really going back to kind of the core values of USAA and serving those who have served us, that has helped, because it's when you're going out, say to a huge wildfire or a huge hurricane event, the devastation that you see, it hurts to be away from home. But when you're out there, that's where you're going to find your purpose. That's where I found my purpose in the industry, was helping people, not just one family or two, but hundreds of families after every storm, just try to clean up their lives a little bit and set them on a path towards getting back to some sort of normalcy. So it's just like anything in life, whether you're in insurance or you're in any other industry, you've got to have passion. You have to find your why. Why are you doing this? If you don't have that, it's helping people. It's being passionate about trying to bring some peace to their life, whether it's through insurance claims or in my personal life. My priorities are, God, family, community, and it really comes down to relationships. When I put myself in the shoes of someone who just went through a horrible day, whether it's a fire or hurricane again, that makes it so much easier to connect with them on an emotional level. And when I connect with them there, it gives me it fuels a passion to try to put them on a path towards, again, bringing resolution to their situation. And when you do that and you focus, and it's really thinking less of yourself and really going out and serving others, And if you can figure that out, you can do anything. You could be in any career, but you've got to find out what, you got to look back and say, yep, I was able to change the path for these families or these people.
One of the common themes I hear from our guests over and over, a resounding theme, is servant leadership and being willing to serve others and not expect anything in return. And you just seem to bring that point home. It's so beautifully. What are your path to success? I mean, how'd you arrive at CEO Legacy Building Consultants? It seems like you've come from the past 20 years, from 19 just starting the insurance industry to now CEO of a building consulting firm. What were some successes along that journey that kind of were stepping stones to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, and if you ask any of my close friends, they'll tell you it's been a roller coaster ride. So it's not exactly been linear to get to this point. But what I saw was a real need in the industry. I as a adjuster, both a desk adjuster, field adjuster, independent adjuster, flood adjuster, I've gone out to so many homes where it's not to say that the insurance is the only thing that's making their life miserable, but sometimes it's a primary issue. And it's just the question of, if we could just get this claim resolved, we can move on to the next step. And so it's really just seeing that in what emotional turmoil people are put through. People that are calling me, friends of friends, family members that are calling with their own claims. And it's like, man, I'm sorry you're going through that, and just try to give them pointers on how to move forward. But again, if it's damaged, it should be covered. If it's not damaged or it shouldn't be covered, then it shouldn't be. But it's really just clear communication from the insurance companies and an attempt to pay what they're able to pay for, and really to get at that indemnity. And to kind of give you an example, I after Hurricane Irma, I helped an insured who was a World War II veteran. This was 5-6 years ago or so. I go in and it's a flood loss. So there's devastation. There's muck from the Atlantic that have come in, and about 4 feet of water damage. All the belongings are waterlogged and damaged. And I'm sitting there with this 95 or so year old going through his medals and his pictures and his just his old war stories. I mean, I was out there for 2 days just talking. I mean, I could have gotten it done probably in a few hours, but I had to be there to help hold his hand. So I think of that gentleman, that veteran who has all these stories that the way that corporate big business is set up, we don't have time for that. So really it's just to understand that, hey, people have lives. This claim they're not just a claim number. This is a person. This is a family behind this. We need to give them an answer as to whether or not it's covered so they can move on with their life. And if it is covered, let's do everything we can to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as what that indemnification should look like.
Awesome. What are some favorite books that you've read that have helped you along your journey?
Well, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. That's a good one. That's a good way to find your why. Yeah, find your why. I believe it's the E-Myth. So as a business owner, I strongly recommend that. Someone very wise recommended that to me about a year ago.
One of the copies.
There you go. Yeah. No, Tom. You referenced that to me, I think last September. And so, yeah, that was just an eye opener for me as far as why I'm a business owner. Why am I going crazy all the time? And it's like, oh, that's why I'm basically doing all these different jobs. And so it just really helps you kind of compartmentalize. All right, there's a time and place for this, a time and place for that, and just really carving out what hat am I wearing at this moment, and I don't have to wear them all at the same time. So. And there's so many more, I'd love to share more, but those two I would strongly and highly recommend for people. Find your why personally. We all have a mission statement at a business that we work for or we have worked for that's ingrained in us. What's your personal mission statement? And that's something I'm working on right now. So I'll have that to you next time. But it's something that has come up to me recently. We invest so much in these businesses that we work for, but how does that line up with you individually? If it lines up, great, you're in the right place. If it doesn't line up, well, it's good to recognize that and try to find somewhere that you can work and find your value and find your passion, because that's really what it's gonna all boil down to.
You're definitely in the right field, because it seems like everything comes back to dispute resolution, whether it's the dispute or conflict between what you're doing in business and your personal values, whether it's between the insured and the insurance company. It just seems like your life revolves around that thesis of how do I resolve this internal conflict or the external conflict or this dispute. I love it. Last question is, if you could take anybody to dinner, past or present, who would that be and why?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, you, Tom, I think that no. Obviously there's so many throughout history that I would just love to pick their brain. But I'm going to go with I attend Oak Hills Church here in San Antonio, so I'm going to say Max Lucado. So when I started at USA when I was 19, I also started attending Oak Hills Church, which is just up the road. If you're not familiar with Max Lucado, I highly recommend his books as well. Much more church oriented, but just again, going back to the simple truths of life, and just all the discussion about purpose and what we're here for, and just being comfortable with yourself. And the past is the past, right? And then there's grace for that. And so I've just gleaned so much, not only as a claim adjuster, building consultant, but as a husband, as a dad. And so I just highly recommend his books if you haven't had the privilege of reading them yet.
What would be some of the questions I said the last question, I always have another question. What are some of the things you might talk to him about?
Man, with someone like Max Lucado, I would say I would probably try to do as little talking as possible, because he is a dynamic storyteller, and I just feel like just his books, he'll start talking about a topic and he'll just take you places that you would never think of. So it'd probably be, how do you come up with these stories? How do you take this simple truth and turn it into this huge story that just comes back to the simple truth? And he just has this way of writing, and just very gifted. And so, but like I said, listen more than I talk it would be my goal going into a conversation like that.
Yeah, it seems like all the great minds, past and present, they have one thing in common: they know how to connect and communicate with people. And he does that so effectively. There's
absolutely
all that, there's a local church here. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and the local church here is Elevation. Stephen Furtick is a pastor, one of the best communicators that I've come across, and another one biblically based, John Maxwell. I mean, Tony Robbins. They're big names, but they've created a big name just from being their ability to connect with people, and really just a level of communication. How they communicate is just so effective.
Yeah, Tom, I think it all comes down to authenticity. If you try to be someone else or pick up a persona that's not yours and try to act like that, I think that comes through. I think people, whether it's in claim adjusting or it's pastoring or it's motivational speaking, I think what people want is they just want to know who you really are. We all have things that we want to talk about and messages that we want to get out. But at the end of the day, if I'm standing in front of a house that was just caught on fire and there's a family, it's just showing up and being who I am. It's John showing up. John, the guy that they're going to see at H-E-B, our local grocery store. It's going to be me, not John, the adjuster, just with a checkbook, and they're hoping and praying that I'm going to do the right thing. No, it's about showing up and just being there, and recognizing that this isn't a money issue first and foremost. This is a life situation. This is a huge life situation that these kids are going to remember the rest of their lives. So I don't want them to look back and say, "Oh man, John, that adjuster, the guy that we might see at HB, he didn't do right." I'd rather them look back and preferably not even remember who I am, or if they do remember who I am, it was somebody that came and hopefully brought a little bit of peace to that horrible day that and situation they were going through.
Well said. Well, thank you so much for your time. We went a little bit over, but always good to speak with you, my friend. And until next time. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Tom. You have a great one.
You as well. Take care.